Hello, in this video, I'm going to discuss multiple choice variable specific properties. As you can see, I already have my template open. If you haven't already, open your HotDocs program, open your library, edit the separation agreement template, and open your component manager. For the purposes of this training, I'm going to work with the client state variable, so I'm going to double click and open that up. We're going to look at most of the items below the prompt. I'll start with selection, style, and other, which will also change to none of the above, and then I'll talk about option, default merge text, and prompt. Selection is the way the multiple choice or the amount of options the user is allowed to select from when they're answering the question. So right now a select one only would allow them to select one option, and all that apply would allow them to select more than one answer. Depending on what you select here, it will also affect your expressions that you're building for your template as well. As you can notice, or maybe have noticed, depending on what you have selected here in this select dropdown, this option will change. When it's a one only, you have other. I'm going to scroll way down here. This is why we use drop-down box. And other will put an other option, and then you can type what that other option is. You can see I didn't even check the box. You can just start typing in the field and HotDocs will check that for you. However, when you have an all that apply or all that apply selected from the list, none of the above is the default here. Again, I'll go way to the bottom and let me check a few items. When I check none of the above, it wipes out all of those answers. If you wanted to have an other option for an all that apply, you would have to add it as an option in your options box and then create a text variable that it's maybe hidden and you show it once other is selected. I'm going to go ahead and generally talk about the styles. They do change a little bit depending on what you have selected in the select dropdown. Button is what you saw previously. It's just a list of buttons that the user can select from. Button grid, I use this a lot when I have options I need to display for the user and I don't want to do it in a dropdown, or the requirement for my project is not to do it in a dropdown. It tries to space out the items in even rows and columns. It conserves space in my dialog. This list style is the one I use the least. I think it's most confusing for my user, especially when I go to work with an all that apply. One of the reasons I use it the least is they don't always come over here and look at the scroll bar, even though it looks like it's right there in their face. They just don't. People don't see scroll bars. They can use their down arrow to move between. They can use their up arrow. Some people really like this because they see it in other programs, so it might be great for you. The other one I like to use a lot when I have a large list. I try to always use this one if it's viable for the clients I'm working with. It's a drop down. One thing I will make mention of, when you're working with other and a drop down list, you don't get other in the actual drop down list. The box where the drop down is a field, and your cursor can go in the field and you can just start typing what that other option is. Now I won't go through every single one of these options for all that apply. You'll notice that the only difference here is there's no drop down. It's really, you can't render what we need to for an all that apply with a drop down. And I'm going to point out the difference in the list here. So I'm going to select list and click test. It looks the same, but the user can select more than one item using their control, their shift, their mouse, and that can be overwhelming and confusing for them. And so if you do use list, you may want to include a note to help them understand how they're supposed to answer their question.